All right, so we're back, and today we're diving into something I'm sure you saw online, at least bits and pieces of it. Serena Williams at the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah.
We've got some pretty strong opinions here from Fox News, E! Online, and Marca, and yeah, the internet's still buzzing about this one.
It wasn't the football that got people going this time, was it?
Not quite. It was a surprise appearance during Kendrick Lamar's set that really threw fuel on the fire.
Hmm.
On the surface, it seems simple enough, Serena Williams dancing to Not Like Us.
Right.
But when you factor in the other performers, well, things get a little bit juicy, wouldn't you say?
Yes, the tangled web of celebrity relationships.
Yeah.
Both Serena Williams and SCA, who was also in the performance, are Drake's exes.
Yeah.
And Drake and Kendrick Lamar, they have a rivalry that's been going on for years.
Yeah.
So.
Talk about an awkward run-in.
Right.
Some people instantly jump to conclusions, accusing Serena of intentionally trolling Drake by appearing with his rival. ESPN analyst Stephen A. Smith even went so far to say that if Serena were his wife, he'd file for divorce over this.
Stephen A. Smith. He never shies away from a strong opinion, does he? But his reaction, while extreme, does bring up a larger conversation about how these celebrity rivalries capture the public's imagination. It's like a real-life soap opera playing out on this global stage.
And the audience always wants to pick a side, right?
Absolutely.
But, I think it's important to remember, these are real people with complex relationships, and we often only see this tiny little sliver of the whole story.
Exactly. And you've got a whole ecosystem at play here. You've got the fans, the media, the social media algorithms.
Well, yeah.
They all thrive on this drama and conflict. So even something as seemingly harmless as a cameo can spiral into this whole blown-out controversy.
It's like we're all searching for the hidden meaning, the subliminal message behind every interaction.
Right.
But what does that say about us, the viewers? Why are we so invested in these celebrity feuds?
That's a great question. I think it speaks to our fascination with these power dynamics, especially in this cultural landscape that often pits artists against each other. We love to dissect every move, every lyric, every public appearance, searching for clues about who's winning the rivalry.
And with social media amplifying everything, it's easier than ever to get caught up in the hype. But let's not forget about Serena's husband, Alexis Ohanian. He offered a very different perspective, didn't he?
He did. Ohanian's response was like a breath of fresh air amidst all the drama. Instead of, fueling the fire, he emphasized the shared Compton roots of Serena and Kendrick Lamar, stating that her appearance was bigger than music.
Yeah, it was a powerful reminder that there's often a deeper story behind the headlines. In this case, it was about community, representation, and celebrating those shared experiences.
Right. And it was also this subtle but effective way of reclaiming the narrative.
Yeah.
By shifting the focus away from Drake and the rivalry, Ohanian reframed Serena's appearance as a celebration of her heritage and accomplishments.
It's interesting because both Stephen A. Smith and Alexis Ohanian are reacting to the same event, but their interpretations are totally different. It really shows how subjective perception is, especially when it comes to this celebrity culture.
What I find fascinating is that we often project our own values and assumptions onto these public figures.
Right.
Stephen A. Smith's reaction seems rooted in a more traditional view of marriage and loyalty, while Ohanian's response emphasizes empowerment and individuality.
Yeah, and both of those interpretations are out there in the world, circulating, influencing how other people perceive Serena's actions.
Absolutely.
It's like this swirling vortex of opinions, and it can be hard to separate fact from fiction, genuine emotion from calculated publicity.
Which brings us to Drake. He's been strangely quiet throughout this whole thing, hasn't he?
He has. But even his silence is being interpreted as a response.
Right.
Some people see it as taking the high road, while others think he's secretly fuming.
And then there's that cryptic comment he made at a concert in Australia.
Yeah.
Dedicating a song to his exes who are doing better than him.
Oh, yeah.
Was that a subtle dig at Serena and SCA? A genuine expression of goodwill? Or just a carefully crafted PR move?
Impossible to know for sure.
Right.
But that ambiguity is part of what makes this whole situation so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like a puzzle with missing pieces, and we're all just trying to figure out how they fit together.
It's almost like a Rorschach test, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all projecting our own interpretations onto this blank space, and it reveals as much about ourselves as it does about the celebrities involved.
So we've got this tangled web of relationships, conflicting interpretations, and a whole lot of speculation.
Right.
But amidst all the noise, there's one crucial voice that seems to be missing. Serena Williams herself.
That's right. We've spent all this time analyzing the reactions of others, but what about Serena's side of the story?
Yeah.
What was her intention? What does she think about all this attention and scrutiny?
That's what we'll delve into next.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all those reactions and forget that Serena is at the heart of this. So let's try to understand her perspective. We might not have a direct statement from her, but her social media offers some pretty interesting clues.
Okay, so what she's saying online? Is she, like, hiding from all the drama?
Not at all. Actually, she's been posting photos and videos from Super Bowl Sunday looking radiant and excited. One caption even says, "Let's go Super Bowl halftime. I diet a little."
That doesn't really sound like someone who's feeling ashamed or regretful, and it almost seems like she's leaning into the moment.
Exactly. It suggests that she was genuinely thrilled to be a part of the performance. And remember, this wasn't just any halftime show. It was a celebration of hip-hop, a genre that is very deeply intertwined with Black culture.
And both Serena and Kendrick Lamar share those Compton roots, which, adds another layer of meaning to her appearance.
Absolutely.
It goes beyond just dancing on stage. It's about representation and visibility.
It's also worth noting that she hasn't directly addressed any of the drama surrounding her appearance. No defensive statements, no clapbacks on social media, nothing.
That's actually pretty powerful. She's choosing to not engage with any of the negativity. And instead, she's letting her actions and her joy speak for themselves.
It really does speak volumes about her confidence and her refusal to be defined by other people's opinions.
Right.
Especially opinions that are rooted in misogyny or those outdated relationship norms.
Yeah, this reminds me of something Serena faced earlier in her career. Remember when she was criticized for crip walking at Wimbledon back in 2012?
Oh, absolutely. The backlash was intense. A lot of people accused her of being disrespectful and inappropriate.
And it's interesting because Alexis Ohanian brought up that incident as well, pointing out the hypocrisy of people suddenly clutching their pearls over this Super Bowl dance.
It's a brilliant point. He's highlighting this double standard that Serena often faces as a Black woman in the public eye. Certain actions are deemed acceptable when they're performed by certain people, but become controversial when Serena does them.
It's like she can't win. If she expresses herself freely, she's criticized. If she stays silent, she's scrutinized.
Right.
It's a no-win situation.
And that speaks to a larger issue of how Black women are often policed and judged more harshly for expressing themselves authentically. Their bodies, their movements, their voices constantly subject to this scrutiny and control.
So maybe this Super Bowl appearance is less about Drake and more about Serena just existing as her full self on this global stage. And that authenticity, that unapologetic ownership of her identity is what makes her so inspiring to so many.
It's a reminder that true strength lies in staying true to yourself, even when the world is trying to put you in a box.
Now, some people might say, come on, she had to know this would stir up drama. Maybe she's playing into it for the publicity. But I think that misses the point.
Exactly. Even if there was some element of calculation there, does it diminish the impact of her actions? Does it negate the fact that she's challenging these societal norms and inspiring millions?
Not at all. Whether it was intentional or not, she's sparking important conversations about race, gender, and the right to self-expression.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Absolutely.
Regardless of her motivations.
Because it's bigger than music, as Alexis Ohanian said.
Right.
It's about representation, about visibility, about refusing to be silenced.
Okay, so we've analyzed all these reactions, we've explored the context, but how do we actually apply these insights to our own lives?
I think one takeaway is the importance of critical thinking. Don't just accept the headlines at face value. Dig a little deeper, consider those multiple perspectives, and question your own assumptions.
Yeah, it's so easy to get swept up in all that gossip and outrage, but taking a step back and actually engaging with the nuances is so crucial.
Another takeaway, I think, is the power of authenticity. Serena's story reminds us that being true to ourselves, even in the face of criticism, is ultimately the most rewarding path.
It's not always easy, though, especially when, the world is constantly trying to define us. But seeing someone like Serena embrace her individuality with such confidence and grace, it's incredibly empowering.
Absolutely.
It gives us permission to do the same.
And finally, I think this whole situation highlights the importance of empathy. It's so easy to judge others from afar, but when we take the time to understand their stories, their motivations, their struggles, we develop a much deeper sense of compassion.
It's a good reminder that behind every headline, behind every viral moment, there are real people with real lives and real complexities.
Absolutely.
And that's something worth remembering as we continue to navigate this ever-evolving media landscape.
It's interesting, isn't it, how this whole situation has become this microcosm of the larger cultural conversations we're having today.
Totally. We started with a celebrity cameo at the Super Bowl, but now we're talking about power dynamics, societal expectations, and the evolving roles of women.
Right.
It's much bigger than any one individual or any one event.
Yeah. These themes are playing out everywhere, not just in the entertainment industry. Think about, the ongoing discussions about gender equality in the workplace, the fight for reproductive rights, the push for more diverse representation in media and politics. It's all connected.
It's like Serena's Super Bowl appearance, and the reactions it sparked has become this unexpected catalyst for exploring these broader societal issues.
Absolutely. And it underscores the fact that these conversations aren't just abstract or theoretical.
Right.
They have very real-world implications. They impact how we see ourselves, how we interact with each other, and how we actually shape the world around us.
So what can we do? How can we, as individuals, contribute to positive change and challenge these harmful norms?
Well, I think it starts with awareness.
Yeah.
We need to be mindful of the biases we hold, both conscious and unconscious, and how those biases shape our perceptions and actions.
That's easier said than done, though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how do we even begin to identify those hidden biases,
Yeah.
especially when they're so ingrained in our culture?
It's definitely a process, and it requires, ongoing self-reflection and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions.
Yeah.
It can be helpful to engage with diverse perspectives, to listen to the experiences of those who are different from us, and to educate ourselves on the history and context of these issues.
Right? It's about being open to learning and unlearning and recognizing that we all have blind spots. It's about being humble enough to admit when we're wrong and courageous enough to speak up when we see injustice.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual actions, it's about collective responsibility. We need to hold each other accountable to call out that harmful behavior and create spaces where everyone feels safe and respected.
That means having those uncomfortable conversations,
Yeah.
even when they're challenging or awkward. It means standing up for what's right, even when it's unpopular. And it means supporting those who are marginalized and amplifying their voices.
It's about creating this culture of empathy and understanding where we prioritize that human connection over division and judgment.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the most important takeaway is this. We all have a role to play in shaping a more just and equitable world.
It starts with each of us examining our own beliefs and behaviors and taking action to challenge the systems and structures that perpetuate inequality.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that these issues aren't someone else's problem to solve. They're our collective responsibility.
And it's a responsibility we can't afford to ignore.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the Super Bowl halftime show to the complexities of these gender dynamics and the power of individual action.
It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope it's left you with some food for thought and a renewed sense of purpose.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Continue to explore these ideas, challenge those assumptions, and engage in meaningful dialogue with those around you.
And most importantly, never underestimate the power of your own voice and your ability to make a difference in the world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving for a better future. It's really wild how something that seems so surface level, a celebrity cameo at a football game, can turn into these deep conversations about societal norms and expectations.
It is a testament to the power of pop culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
These seemingly trivial events can act as this mirror, reflecting back our own biases and anxieties. And in this case, Serena Williams has become a lightning rod for a lot of those anxieties.
Yeah, she really has. I mean, she's been in the public eye for decades, battling scrutiny and judgment, both for her athletic achievements and her personal choices.
And it's interesting that the criticisms always seem to center around her refusal to conform to those traditional expectations of how a woman, and particularly a Black woman, should behave.
Right. If she's assertive on the court, she's labeled as aggressive or angry.
Right.
If she expresses her sexuality or celebrates her body, she's deemed provocative or inappropriate. And if she dares to associate with someone who's perceived as a rival of her ex, well, all hell breaks loose.
It's like she's constantly being policed, judged against this ever-shifting set of standards that seem designed to keep her in her place.
But here's the thing. Serena just refuses to be put in a box.
Right.
She continues to defy expectations, push those boundaries, and live her life on her own terms.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is what makes her such a powerful and a polarizing figure.
She embodies this unapologetic embrace of self, a refusal to shrink herself to fit into someone else's narrow definition of what a woman should be. And that's incredibly threatening to some people.
Because it challenges the status quo. It forces us to confront our own biases and assumptions about gender, race, and power.
Absolutely.
And it reminds us that true liberation comes from embracing our own individuality, even when it makes other people uncomfortable.
And that's the real takeaway from this whole thing, isn't it? It's not about dissecting Serena's every move or trying to decipher her intentions. It's about recognizing the larger forces at play, the systemic inequalities that continue to shape our perceptions and limit our potential.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. How can we, as individuals, contribute to a more just and equitable world? How can we challenge the norms that seek to confine and control, not just for celebrities like Serena Williams, but for everybody?
It starts with awareness,
Yeah.
with examining our own biases and assumptions.
Yeah.
It continues with education, with seeking out diverse perspectives and amplifying those marginalized voices. And it culminates in action, in using our voices and our platform to advocate for change.
Because in the end, this isn't just about Serena Williams.
No.
It's about all of us. It's about creating a world where everyone is free to be their authentic selves, without fear of judgment or reprisal. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.